Hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, and welcome back. If this is your sixth Nancy Drew Season 3 episode review, it's all rhyming, in the world. I apologize if I'm seeming a little tired than normal. It has been a very long week for me in my personal life, and I'm making the schedule for the rest of the year, and it's not quite as a lot, but it's still like figuring out placements and figuring out when to upload, as well as the holidays, and I still want to do some other things in the world, but that's still taking me some time to organize, as well as, again, Christmas is coming, so also Thanksgiving too. I don't want to forget about that. But yeah, so it's been a very crazy time. There's still a lot of more cool things happening with us as we wind down, as well as we're prepping stuff for next year. As it's November, and even though it's November, like, it still takes time for us to figure out what the plan is, the game plan is for the next year. But more about that later on in the future. But for now, here on Nancy Drew, this is probably the most straightforward episode I think I've watched in recent weeks. I don't know why. It felt so easy to digest, in my opinion, because we basically got three separate storylines going on, and it was just very tame and very simplistic. I mean, we were still getting some development going on all fronts, and I'm going to be honest about this. Even though it was simplistic, I kind of did think a couple of things were, like, kind of too quick to be done, in my opinion. I'll get to more of that when we go through the butchered recap, but I felt there was a couple things that I was really hoping we would drag out a little bit more, but sad to say, it just didn't go my way, as always. But overall, again, this was a very simplistic episode of Nancy Drew. We're getting through it. We're starting to, like, really figure things out, and see where we're standing now with everything that's going on. Well, I'm gonna go for quick. Let's go for the butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Nancy Drew. So we begin with a little mild flashback of a little boy making a paper route back in 1992, and it turns out it's the killer that just finally got arrested from, well, finally got the second Ice Heart killer when he was a kid. So now we cut back to present day, where Nancy is contacting someone. I don't know who she's contacting, but she's going around trying to find out where the connection would be to find the original Ice Heart killer, which is a supernatural entity, because yellow. So while that's happening, everyone else is kind of like doing some things as well. It's been like one day since yesterday, well, the last episode. George is still a little bit pissed at Nick for not trying to resolve certain things from last night, but that's besides the point. Nick is still running the youth center, but of course very understaffed. Ryan's just around trying to help out as much as he can. Bess is still holed up about her hookup that has yet to contact her, and she's been very anxious to figure out what's going on with her. And honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat as well. Okay, I'll stop there about my personal life. I'll stop there. I'm going to get into a very major tangent if I do so, so I'm going to shut up there. Ace, of course, is dealing with the ramifications of his actions, of being involved with Amanda's dad, and Mr. Drew's trying his damn best to try and get zero to basically no one touches Ace. That's what he's trying to do, but it's kind of hard. It's not that easy to get total immunity without getting something major in return. It's not that easy always. I believe Nancy does run out of clues on how to figure this out, really, so she starts to head back to the youth center, while once again Nick is understaffed. And I believe Nancy and Ryan do click off the, like, yeah, you know what, come with me, why not, like, get to know me a little bit more and actually be hands-foot on my adventures. So, where do we go from that? Which storyline do I want to tackle on next? I'm going to say let's go with the Boston. So, yeah, so Ace finishes up his, he tries to get an immunity thing, but it doesn't quite work out. So there's still a chance that Ace could be taken to court should his case not get should his side of the case not go well. So basically, there is a chance Ace can go to prison. There is a very small chance. So they're trying to figure out what other options they have to try and get Ace out of it, or try to get Ace the very best, the very minimum statement possible. But It's still up in the air since Amanda's dad's still in the wind. They don't have a real clue. And basically, the only way for Ace to get off scot-free is if he actually gets him to go to jail, which is still a big what if. But coincidentally, around the same time, Ace's parents show up, literally the day after their argument. And apparently that last night, someone threw a brick into Ace's window, probably regardless of knowing what the heck happened, really. And so, with a warning message. So, Ace is obviously concerned for his parents. His parents is concerned about just everything that's going on. They're not quite... It's weird because, like, for me, like, Ace's dad is still... It's been a night that he probably slept on it a bit, so he's not too angry, but he's still, like, I could still feel like there's some tension there that still has to be resolved. Ace's mom only just tells him, like, be safe, be careful, we'll figure this out. So while Ace and Mr. Drew head outside to kind of formulate their next plan, Amanda finally comes back, which I'm like, oh, okay, you actually are showing up. I thought this was literally like, oh, we're just going to mention her until we don't feel like it anymore, or just, that sort of thing. But no, she's actually back. She heard about the situation from wherever the heck she is. I think she said she was in Spain. So yeah, she's here. She's in town, and she wants to, reconnect. She gives Ace a really big kiss. So I'm like, yeah. Well, actually, that's kind of weird because, like, again, I keep thinking Nancy Drew was like, it's been 5 weeks, but no, it's actually been like maybe a couple weeks at best. So, which I completely forgot about still. And what was I going to say? Yeah, so they're still very much in, like, didn't they just see each other not that long ago? Or maybe it feels so longer for me, but regardless. So, they reconnect, they go out for coffee, and Ace is very honest with her by saying that, look, this is the situation I'm in. I was trying to help out your dad because I wanted to be still close to you, even though you weren't here. This backfired on me. There's a really big case against him, so please, I want to know where he is. And Amanda's like, no. Like, I know everyone thinks he's a killer, but for me, he's still my dad, and I don't want him to go to jail. He literally was there for me when my mother wasn't, so please, forgive me, but I'm not gonna... Even if I did know where he is, I would never turn him in. I would never give you that information. Which is very... For Ace, is like, it's not something that he's comfortable with since, he stands to be threatened to go to jail, but again, that is Amanda's dad over her boyfriend that she just started dating not that long ago. Of course, she's might be under the conditional mindset of like, yeah, I want to protect my dad as much as I can. I'm trying to figure if there was another scene, but I don't believe we do until later on. But I know, like, eventually Amanda goes straight for her dad in the boatyard, which he's been hiding out there since a while. She delivers him some rations, and he assumes like, oh, are you here to join me? Like, let's go on the high sea, let's get away from this town. She's like, no, because again, she's with Ace, and it would be really suspicious if she goes along too. So she decides to stay, and he decides to like, okay, I'm gonna leave tonight. It's nighttime, no one notices I'm here. I can just easily escape and never come back. So that's the plan, but it doesn't last for long as the police all start showing up. Turns out Ace was trailing Amanda and actually made the call to like, yeah, he's here. Let's go get him. So they arrest him, but not before the-year-old Mr. Dad plants some more like negative thoughts in Amanda's head about Ace, and it seemingly works. At the police station, because Ace was a very instrumental part in getting Mr. Bobson to jail, they're going to give him off scot-free. No involvement whatsoever, which is great, but of course Ace obviously damaged his relationship with Amanda. Before he focuses on Amanda, his dad shows up with a plate of food. He also wanted to read in, just make sure everything's fine with his release and make sure he's cleared of anything so nothing bad happens to him. And Ace's dad doesn't, when he was communicating in sign language, he doesn't say he's ready to talk to Ace or like try to forgive things, but he thinks his mom thinks it's best for him to come home and let them start repairing things. But for Ace, he's like, no, I'm still gonna live with Nick for a while. I'm gonna try and get a second job. Which I'm like, where are you gonna get a second job? Like, let's be honest here, where? You barely show up to your first job because you gotta help Nancy or like whatever problems are happening in Horseshoe Bay. There's absolutely no way a second place is gonna hire. Absolutely no way. But regardless, he wants to go independent now. He thinks this is the right move for him, and Ace's dad kind of is in agreement there. Like, he just nods, like, okay, this is probably for the best for now. But please show up for the big religions nights. Like come up for those, and at least we can still be a family, even though you kind of want to like take that leap away. which is still like a very healthy step. I was a little bummed out that like they're kind of just cutting off the conflict short. At least the issue at hand is not away, but the main like conflict of like Ace's dad not being happy with Ace kind of went away pretty quickly. That's one thing I was kind of bummed out about. But what also happens next is that Ace decides to stay behind the station to see Amanda, who also gives her in her statement. But at first, it kind of seemed like Amanda was okay with Ace letting that happen to her dad, because she kind of wanted him to go to prison so he can like serve his time, but she didn't want him also to like hate her as a result. So Ace doing it means that she's still the good daughter to an extent, but at the same time, it was still a massive betrayal that Ace had to follow her to get his location, and he couldn't trust her enough to like, oh, maybe I wasn't gonna go find my dad, but you didn't trust me enough to kind of give me that chance, which is always like a big like argument point, because she's got a point. That is her dad, but at the same time, you can't ignore the fact that he has done something really malicious. You really can't ignore that, so you have to really be careful in the balance there. So Amanda's pretty clear to Ace, like, we're done, we're broken up, which I'm like, great, we're never gonna see her again for sure. Which actually does suck, because I mean, I know for me, like for the fan, like this paves the way for Ace and Nancy to get a relationship going, which I do agree it would be better, but at the same time, like, it was really quick. Like, Ace and Amanda finally just got together not that long ago, and already they're breaking up. Like, for us, it's been months, but for the show, it's only been a few weeks. So that's why I mentioned, like, it was like, that ran a little bit too fast. And considering the fact, Bobson is, like, done, and she's probably going to go away, and unless her brother comes back, I don't think we're going to see her ever, that in my opinion. So, they're broken up, they're done for. Utaloo. Meanwhile, George and Bess kind of switch attention, because since George is a little bit anxious about just everything that's going on, she kind of focuses back on her efforts on like trying to get Odette back out of her body. So they do manage to locate in the archives that there was someone who has had a little bit of a history with removing ancient ghosts from bodies that shorten the lifespan. So they contact the guy under the guise that the curator is trying to make an interview for him for the local paper. Turns out they've actually had some history together in terms of like just conflicts in the past, and he was actually quite a bit concerned, like, why did you call me over here even though I know she and I did not leave things all in great terms? And George just flat out says, like, look, I'm about to die in 10 years. I got this ghost inside of me. Is there any sort of way you can get rid of it? And he's like, not really basic ways, but there does exist a way for her to get it out. There was a device of dark magic, but however, back in those days, there were people that were like very against its existence, so they decided to ban all the weapons. So there was a lot of bootleg copies out there, so they feel like the bootleg copies are not 100% gonna work in terms of like getting everything organized, which I'm like, okay, of course, that's the next problem. They're going to find the bootleg one, but then once they use it, there's going to be a whole nother problem for them to figure out. It's never easy. So they decide to like try and figure out like who in town would still have that thing. And I know that does tie in with Ace's thing, because Ace does get a notification that Mr. Bobson did have a very sizable collection of stolen goods from olden times. So if anyone in town would have it, it would be him, which is also key, because I now remember Amanda does give him the key to the storage unit that he had, but then also that was like the last thing she gave him as like kind of like, we're done, we're even, your group and me and my family, we're done, we're even, where we have no sort of communication for anymore. So jumping out from that point, back over to the other side. So at the time they're still looking, George and Bess are still looking for other options. Bess is still like thinking of the girl she hooked up with, but then of course George like makes on the guys like, oh, you've never been in like a rejection zone, you've always been accepted, and you're always the one rejecting people. And she's like denying it, and like, yeah, it's true, but it's clearly true, just to make that clear whatsoever. Meanwhile, Nancy and Ryan have a little bit of a clue. They head down to the they head down like the forest to like presumably find a sort of paper trail that the paper boy that was the second Ice Heart killer used to do. While they're doing that, they're just talking. They're actually getting to know each other. Like, Nancy's comfortable with Ryan, but there's still so much she needs to know about him as a person. Now that he is technically her dad. Like, there's still a lot for them to like explore and figure out, and all that sort. So they're heading along the creek. They just talk about each other. Nancy's upbringing, Ryan's history with her mom, and it was actually pretty sweet. For a moment, like Ryan's come a long way from season 1. I will say that he went from being a freaking douchebag that I hated to now like he's a nice guy. He's got problems, but he's getting there. I'll give him that. Once they cross the creek, they find a abandoned building, which could be a key clue to like trying to find the monster. Ryan's trying to not be as aggressive around Nancy, so he's trying to find other ways around safely. But sad to say, he does fall through a weak part of the floor, and it's not funny. It really isn't. And he also dislocates his shoulder, and this decides he uses this opportunity to like kind of play around. And is like, did you pay for Ace to like do all your chores on the chore wheel? He doesn't deny, but his face is like, yeah, I did. He has one of those guilty faces. That's admittable. So they're wandering around, Ryan's paying attention to like how Nancy's doing this to like really solve the case. Still learning a little bit more about him, and again, he's a little bit more hesitant on some of Nancy's certain tactics. He doesn't agree with them whatsoever. I do know eventually they do reach the cage area that we saw in last week's flashback, and it is very creepy because like the door's open, there's no monster there. They're just looking around, just looking at this very, very creepy zone. And they do find something. I don't think it is the Ice Heart. I think it is the Ice Heart's killer. I don't know. Like that scene was not well lit for my eyes, so I apologize if I couldn't really see that well. But I do know, like, yeah, they do find something because Nancy picks up a doll, which I'm pretty sure had some sort of connection with it, and he's not happy whatsoever. So they're running around the underground maze, trying to find a way out, trying to find how the hell to get out of there, since they can't really climb their way back out with where they began. And eventually they find this like very newly installed like ladder. So they climb that up, and they actually come through the Historic Society house where George and Bess are, and they're like confused, like, why the fuck are you guys here? So apparently there was a secret room in the Historic Society that leads into the lair of this freaking creature. So now they're all confused, like, why would this be at the house? Like, and also why wouldn't the curator tell us that, hey, there's a secret door here that leads into like this underground lair for a freaking spirit? Thankfully, when Nick, I believe, paid for the repairs, he installed in the security system, so they're able to like see inside, like, the footage and figure out where the heck this person is, or where the heck did the spirit? When did the spirit come out? So they're scrubbing for the footage, and yes, Bess's footage when she had sex with the curator, it was there, and she feels really embarrassed, and so she decides to take over searching for the time being, so she can scrub through the unnecessary sex tape that now exists of her. So they all retreat back inside the one of the waiting areas. So they're all waiting around for stuff. I think Nancy calls in for a group huddle, I believe. And yeah, so while she's there, she talks to Ryan about just, how they are now, and like, they've definitely grown a bit on this adventure. Well, this little mini trip they had during the woods into the underground lair of a fucking monster, and they're getting there. They're getting to getting at like a very weird father-daughter relationship. They are getting there. It's taking a little bit of time, but they are getting there. By that point, Ace shows up. He doesn't tell them about the breakup. He just keeps it a little bit private to himself for now, since of just all the larger things that are happening right now. And what does happen next is that Bess does manage to find the footage. Well, not the footage they wanted to see, but it becomes very clear that in this footage, the curator knew about the door. She actually had the key for the door, and she opened it the night of the blackout, when Temperance showed into town. So the curator never had any sort of like want to help solve the problem because she was the one that created this problem. So now they want to figure out where the heck did she go because she disappeared. And second of all, where is this monster now? They literally have no release because now it's loose on Horseshoe Bay, waiting for its next victim because it's targeting specific people. So, but that's where the episode ends. I was really like, again, I found this to be very simplistic, a very basic episode, nothing too crazy happening. It was nice for Nancy and Ryan to get some character bonding moments together as they were in the underground. Ace has not had the best week. He has not had the best time period. You know, sure, his parents are ready to like accept him back after only one day, but him breaking up with Amanda, kind of rushed. I will say that. I'm pretty sure there was other logistics in mind for that, but we'll see if she actually does come back or whatsoever. And I'm still trying to think like this Ice Heart Killer thing's gonna be wrapped up before the midseason, then we're gonna have Temperance take over for the second half. And that's what I'm thinking right now. I don't think you can really stretch this Ice Heart Killer out anymore until like he goes on a freaking rampage and they have no choice to stop him. That's what I'm thinking of really, but we'll see how that all goes. We'll see. But overall speaking, I found this to be a very good episode of Nancy Drew. Not the best, but not the worst. It was just middle of the road average. So I'm going to give this episode 1.5 thumbs up. Regardless of that, I still enjoyed it, so don't worry about that. And let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Nancy Drew? I'm always down for conversation down below. And I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the 3rd season of Nancy Drew. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two besides our Nancy Drew reviews. We are currently doing the Rookie Season 4 episode reviews each and every Monday mornings after a brand episode on Sunday nights on ABC or on Hulu the next day. We're also doing DC Stargirl reviews each and every Wednesday mornings after a brand episode on Tuesday nights on the CW normally. We're also, that's wrapping up this for Wednesday will be our Season 2 review, so stay tuned for that. Also coming, we also have Walker Season 2 episode reviews each and every Friday mornings after a brand episode on Thursday nights on the CW or for the next day on the CW app. And we're also doing Doom Patrol Season 3 reviews each and every Saturday morning, normally after a new episode on Thursdays on HBO Max. But if you don't care about Nancy Drew, you're in luck. We'll be back next week with another episode, and then afterwards we're off for 2 weeks for Thanksgiving, and then we come back for 2 more episodes in December. So that's currently the plan right now as we speak. But again, if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to, but it helps us gets us out to other members of the Drew crew if you have to discover us. Helps us beat up the YouTube algorithm that hates me ever so much in life, and as well as sharing for free here on the internet. Ring that bell for notification where our next episode review is live for Nancy Drew. But until then, for all you members of the Drew crew, I'll see you all next week. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.